stage to our hosts. Awesome.
Cool. Thank you very much, Giacomo. A few words about who we are. My name is Sandra, and I brought Rainer as well. We are the Value Rebels, startup consulting agency that is focusing on product and engineering management. Today, we would like to get one step closer to our mission with you guys and share a process framework that we have developed in the past years. So let's feel the pain a bit together. Let's take, for example, the topic of prioritization, probably an issue in almost all companies, seemingly endless discussions about priorities and what to do next. We're not having enough transparency about who's working on what and duplicating work. Being slow or too slow in delivery, maybe because we're doing 100 things in parallel, too little discovery work. Maybe product owners just are too busy and simply focusing on the execution of what some executives drop into their backlogs and then end up in feature factories. And last but not least, too much technical debt. Again, there is no time to clean up afterwards because, of course, the next thing is already standing in line and also top priority. So if that feels familiar to you, then stay tuned. We have something that can ease the pain here for you as well as it did for us in the past.
The value engine is there to help to solve this, right? But let's make one huge disclaimer at the beginning. The value engine is a process framework, right? In the end, what really counts is to have the best people on board and establish a culture and a mindset that they love to work and everybody can perform together, right? How was that quote, like, culture eats strategy for breakfast? This framework was basically based on real life experience that we had over the last years, right, in different companies, mostly e-commerce companies. So it's not only theory, we really applied that in several companies. It's there to connect a little bit the like strategy and goal setting frameworks like OKRs together with delivery frameworks like Scrum. We felt always there's somehow a gap between that. And it's also good for small companies and big companies, right? Like 5 teams in the company, I think, will benefit from using that, but also companies with 50 teams will be capable to do their portfolio management with that, right? So that's basically what the value engine is about and where it comes from.
Value engine is a framework that is focusing on the dual track development. So we do not only care about what is in the backlog and how this is developed, but we care equally as much about how the stuff gets into the backlog. So how do we figure out what to develop actually? The whole product team is responsible for discovery and delivery. Maybe the product owner and the designer are a little bit more active in discovery together with the lead engineer. Maybe the engineers more in delivery, but all are responsible for both tracks. And so let's keep that in mind when we deep dive into the single process steps.
So the value engine is basically a funnel. This is really important, right? So we want to enable you or a company to look at 10 times more ideas than before, right? But execute 10 times less. Only that 10% that makes 100 times more value. Some initiatives need to drop out. So let's imagine we're starting here with 100 ideas in a certain time frame, right? So we believe that it is not worthy to force people to come up with a lot of background information about each idea. We would like to have it really easy for everybody in the company to come up with ideas. The bare minimum that every idea should have, it should be really brief and precise described what kind of pain or gain are we actually solving or creating, and who could take the lead for this idea. How to manage all these ideas now.
Now it only gets interesting, right? It's seldomly a problem to generate ideas. The situation is actually to select those ideas, to make sure that we figure out on which ideas we want to start working and which ideas we want to start putting the focus on. Some do a voting, some link it to their OKR frameworks if there are. The important thing here is actually 2 things from our perspective. First of all, take care about your ideas on a regular basis. And the second thing is, do not overdo it at this point in time, because actually the art is to make sure that the iteration afterwards, finding out if the idea is actually valuable to proceed with, that this is fast. And then the selection process and this hard work of prioritization actually is not the most important thing. So before an idea can move to the next phase, not only a lead needs to be available and the problem statement crispy, but on top, the team that is needed in order to figure out how to work on this needs to be available for working on it. So that's basically the next phase.
But now the real work starts. So now the columns that we would call in progress, right, starts. And the first in progress column is actually what we call the draft phase, right? Let's imagine we had 100 ideas, 30 got selected. The first important rule in draft is stop starting, start finishing. Don't pull the next idea into draft if you do not have time for it. That's the first important rule for the draft phase. And then let's imagine the team has time to deal, or the teams you have time to deal with 20 of these initiatives that were selected before. The goal of the draft phase is to get uncertainty down as much as you can with really small effort. For design sprint, that again, like in all the other columns, many different methodologies could be used to execute a draft phase. What I think are the most valuable things in the draft phase. So reduce uncertainty about how much value will the initiative will bring. Will it be usable at the end? Will it be feasible for the engineers? And is it viable for your stakeholders, or will it double the customer care calls? So these uncertainties need to come down to an acceptable amount. If you can't do that, maybe it's now the time to kill the first things. Also, I think you should look at the following sources to get better in drafting. That is vision and strategy. Does it actually help you in your vision and strategy? Does it contribute to that? If not, I think you should kill it. Get inspired by what your competitors do. Do a benchmark analysis, right? Don't do the same fault that they already did again, right? It's super cheap to learn from them. Look at quantitative data. How many users are affected here? Generate qualitative data, right? Invite real customers and show it to them and find out if they somehow have another understanding of what you produced from that was intended by you. So there are many different possibilities to execute the draft phase. We think the definition of done should be at least you have a concept ready, right? You know what you want to build after the draft phase. You know your dependencies. And last but not least, really important, in the draft phase, you should agree on your key success and health metrics that are taken to later on decide if you kill or go on with the project. What's next now, Sandra, after you have a concept?
Yeah, probably most of us would start running now and get going with the implementation. But what is important for us here is to actually add one more process step, just to be sure that we don't forget about this. And it's called Hack on Purpose, because the goal here is not to create a fully functioning product, but to create just something where we can see how people try to interact with. And that could be, in the homepage example, very extremely spoken, a simple screen design, non-functional at all. But it could also be, for example, a painted door test. We need to keep this as short as possible because we're not reducing any uncertainty further. We are willing to increase the technical depth that we are producing. So we are willing to take a loan from the technical debt bank, and we will also pay back later if we figured out that we can create the impact. So the definition of done for the hack phase is we have a minimum measurable product. So now we want to bring the measurements to the starting line so that when we kick it off now, we can already measure from the beginning. In some situations, you need to be brave to hack it.
Yeah. So, and now as we hacked it,
cool.
The next thing is that we roll it out, right? But as we already said, is we call that the ship phase. It needs to be rolled out gradually, right? No big bang go live. That would be too dangerous. So go live on a small scale for a small amount of users. I don't know, if you have a transactional business, for a small amount of transactions, and if you're in e-commerce, for a small amount of parcels, you can do that, right? Like somehow limited to a small volume that you do not destroy anything. And then you can work on the stuff and gradually decrease further the uncertainty. And it's still okay to use additional technical debt here to achieve this additional learning faster. And while you're doing this, you measure if you're becoming better, and then maybe roll out mobile already to 100% because performs much better, but desktop needs to be rolled out slower because performs worse than before. In the end, the goal of the ship phase is to have a minimum viable product.
Now, some people would say like, yeah, 100% rolled out, wonderful business value is in the pocket. Let's go to the next one. No. We have a loan and we promised that we need to pay back. So now is the time to really focus on reducing the technical debt that we produced before. So make the software quality here reliable, maintainable, scalable, testable, put proper infrastructure underneath it. Maybe you even decide to build it from scratch. Let's make sure in this time now that we have generated all the impact already, that we take the time to tune it and to make it really manageable for us in the future. We call it actually a minimum lovable product. And as a result, only 3 of your initial ideas pushed through the funnel completely, but you made sure that you focused on the most valuable things first.
Before ramping up here, I think there's a few more things that we should mention. Mm-hmm. This is an experimentation framework, right? We do experiments, and experiments are potentially dangerous, right? We need to somehow create an environment that make experiments safe. We need to be capable to soft rollout stuff. Everything needs to be launched on small scale, that it doesn't affect all our customers, and by this destroys the customer base if it goes wrong. Second thing is, releasing need to be super easy, right? Like invest in speeding up your release cycle. Last but not least, you need to have measurability. If you don't have your measurement tools in place, you will not even realize that your nuclear power plant is exploding. A few more words about timing. Bring the big things on the board, right? Every team should spend at least 70% of their time on the big things. And 30% of the time is not on the board, is small bug fixes, maintenance, and so on. And such a thing on the board, for me, it was always a good thing to say, should maybe take 1 to 4 months to flow through the full board. So this is basically all from the value engine, right, Sandra?
Yes. The last picture that we just shown can also be used as a poster, just in case you want to put it on your wall tomorrow.
We can hand up the meetup now. Wish everyone.
Thank you very much, everybody. It was
Thank you very
amazing
much.
how much you contributed there, right?